moderate Senator Joe Manchin, a critical swing vote at the center of it all. And Senator Manchin joins me now. Senator, you brought the Senate to a standstill for 10 hours on Friday, threatened to side with Republicans, and did not budge until a call from the president and significant concessions were made. In the end, you got $300 a month instead of $400 for benefits. So in this pandemic economy, you don't think people need more money?
Well, first of all, Martha, it's good to be with you, okay? And next of all, I didn't do anything intentionally whatsoever. I did everything I could to bring us together so we'd have more support and the public would get the needed help that's needed. We have so many different ways that we're helping the public with this piece of legislation. It's not that I don't think. I think that basically what would have happened, going from 300 to 400, there's going to be a glitch where people are going to go without unemployment checks for a while. 300 has kept us systematically and kept a smooth transition through there. Also, we did things with child tax credits that we've never done before, which I'm so proud of, because we're going to help families with children, lift children out of poverty. Also, Martha, this was a targeted piece of legislation. It was because people need the help, and we helped every scenario. Also, we targeted our cities, our counties, our municipalities to where they're going to be the first time having money that they're able to use and control their own destiny with infrastructure. They can fix water lines now, sewer lines, they can get internet. We've done so much, and we've extended this. This was all part of the big package, and I always try to work with my Democrat colleagues, my caucus, and my Republican friends, and there was an awful lot of input for over last month.
Senator, we know you are all about bipartisanship, but President Biden did not get a single Republican vote for a relief package in the middle of a pandemic. So at this point, doesn't bipartisanship seem like a false hope?
Not at all, Martha. The first group of people that President Biden brought to the White House was 10 of my friends and colleagues, 10 Republicans, to see what their idea was. They came out with a proposal. He thought we needed to do a lot more, which that is his prerogative, and I support him with that. But with that, we had an awful lot of input from Republican friends all through this process. A lot of the changes that we made that were basically brought into this process came by working with my Republican and Democrat colleagues together. There were about 20 of us that worked continuously. So they had tremendous amount of input. They just couldn't get there at the end. And the President Biden encouraged them to be involved all the way through. He spoke to them all the way up to the end. So I know that. I know in his heart, and he will continue to reach out. That's just who he is.
You know, Politico wrote that your outsized influence has cast its shadow over the Senate since the day the Democrats captured their 50-50 majority. They're talking about this. They're talking about minimum wage, cabinet appointments. If they're not getting bipartisan support, which they aren't, no matter how many meetings they have, do the Democrats now have to cater to Joe Manchin's agenda?
Not at all. No, I didn't lobby for this position. I've never changed, Martha. I'm the same person I have been all my life. And since I've been in the public offices, I'm the same. I've been voting the same way for the last 10 years. I look for that moderate middle. The common sense that comes with the moderate middle is who I am. That's what people expect. My state of West Virginia, they know me. They know how I've governed. I've tried to basically represent them in the best of my ability. These are hardworking, good, common sense people. That's what I want, and that's what I try to do. You've got to work a little bit harder when we have this toxic atmosphere and the divisions that we have and the tribal mentality. Martha, that's not to be acceptable. You've got to work hard and fight that. Fight against those urges just to cloister in with your group and say, well, this is where I am. I always want that moderate middle to be able to work, and that's where you govern from. That's where you run your life from.
Let's talk about the minimum wage. You and 7 other Democratic senators voted against Bernie Sanders' amendment that would have increased the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Here's what White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said about that.
We agree with Senator Sanders, and the president is going to be standing right alongside him, fighting for an increase in the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And he will use his political capital to get that done.
You have your own proposal to increase the minimum wage to $11. So is Joe Biden wasting his political capital on you to get to 15?
Martha, not at all. President Joe Biden knows how to get a deal done. And the bottom line is there is not one senator out of 100 that doesn't want to raise the minimum wage. $7.25 is sinfully low. We must raise it. I agree with President Biden when he says, if you go to work every day, you should be above the poverty guidelines. Well, the poverty guidelines, to be above that, if you're going to work and working full-time, should be at $11 base. That should be your base. And then we index it with inflation to make sure it never gets back in this political conundrum we have right now. It shouldn't be a political football. We do the same thing with Social Security. We index that to make sure that inflation and make sure that it moves forward. With the CPI, we can do the same. Now, we have a deal here to be made. If everyone agrees it should be raised, Bernie has chosen $15, and you know what? An awful lot of areas and states have moved to 15. A lot of them moved a lot further than $7.25. There's very few, I think, if any, are at $7.25. But we need to the base of our minimum wage should be above the poverty guideline, so you have the respect and dignity of work. And that's what we're going to do, and I think you'll find us come to an agreement. We'll work this out and move forward the way it should be. It should be together.
Senator, we'll be watching that. I want to turn finally to Governor Cuomo. You were a former governor. Overnight, more stories about Governor Cuomo, with several staffers telling the Washington Post that it was a toxic, hostile work environment for decades. Also accusations of sexual harassment, and you know the debacle with the nursing homes. Do you think it's time for Governor Cuomo to resign, to step down?
These are serious allegations. I understand there's an investigation, and we should wait until the investigation is finished. I've seen a rush to judgment before, and I think the investigation should proceed and make a decision later. And that's what I would hope that everyone would do, and allow this process to go through. Allow the investigation to be completed. Allow the person to be able to defend themselves and tell their story too. That is the way our process, that's who we are as a country. The rule of law is our bedrock, and everyone deserves that opportunity.
Thanks so much for joining us this morning, Senator Manchin.
Thank you, Martha. Thanks for having me.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.